Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Tougies Take podcast. I'm the namesake of this show. It says so on my birth certificate. And today, I am alongside only one person. Endo, we're throwing it back to, the beginning of the winter. It's just the two of us. Look at this. How are you?
I'm good. I had a bit for this, just the two of us. Bring out the Bill Withers song and start singing, but I'm like, no, thank you, not yet.
Not in a singing mood. I might have to end up being in a singing mood. By the way, I was cultivating ideas for the upcoming charity stream that I think will be next weekend, not this weekend. And one of the suggestions was whenever someone donates a certain amount, that I need to sing like a power ballad from the 80s. And I don't know. I don't know. Like they were like, yeah, go like full wig Bret Michaels bandana. And I'm like, I'm supposed to raise money for charity, not chase people away.
Yeah. Yeah, that's going to be something for sure.
Although now, if not that it's a power ballad, but if that happens, we're singing just the two of us together. We're gonna make it work out. You got to do it for the stream.
I'd feel the wind up in the sky, up to the mountain. Just the two of us.
Beautiful.
Make it a big cry. You and I.
All right, well, that was the Tougies Take podcast. Thank you very much for listening. But now, hey, Endo and I are back here today to talk about everything that's gone on in the world of hockey over the course of the weekend and into the beginning of this week. Although on Monday there was one game between the Coyotes and the Sens, so we don't really have too much to talk about there. If anything, that's probably the only time we'll mention it. It will not be the only time on this show that we mention, though, our lovely sponsors, our friends over at Manscaped, sticking with the show. Of course, you can use code Tougie at checkout, 20% off your order, free worldwide shipping from Romania to Indonesia and anywhere in between and anywhere else, really. I mean, because there's a lot of other ground in between those two nations. Use code Tougie at checkout to be able to secure that deal and as well get the best tools for the job. It doesn't matter if you're taking care of your face, of your balls, anywhere in between. Manscaped's got you covered. Endo Mills. What's that code again?
Tougie. 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 I won the spelling bee, and the spelling bee will get me 20% off and free worldwide shipping at code Manscaped. Use code Manscaped, not at code Manscaped. Manscaped.com. I took the ball, I fumbled it, and I kicked it in the air.
Tougie.
Yeah, Manscaped at Tougie.net.
.gov. Oh, God. So a big thank you to Manscaped. And a big thank you to those of you that sent us in some viewer questions here today. Again, the link to our Discord is in the description. The podcast questions section, the place to be for that. And we will kick things off today with myself as Endo. Mark Stahl has played in his 1,000th career game, meaning that he, Eric, and Jordan are the first trio of brothers to all reach 1,000 games played. Now, the Stahls almost had four brothers hit the 1,000 game club. There's Jared Stahl, of course. How many games away was Jared Stahl from 1,000 games played?
A lot. Because he just said, I'm kind of done with the NHL, and he started working with us. I think it's one of the family members was like, yeah, hockey ain't for me. I'm just going to go work with my family's business or whatever.
That wasn't him. He's actually, to this day, an assistant coach with the ECHL's Orlando Solar Bears. So
Never
still in
mind.
hockey.
I take what I said back.
I think I know who you're talking about. The name escapes me, though.
Yeah, it's one of the Stahl brothers, or one of the... It's a family member of like a family that has like a whole bunch of them in like the NHL.
Probably one of the Sutters, let's be honest. Like,
yeah, I think so.
Someone along those lines.
I
had no other way to mention the milestone.
Yeah.
Other than bringing it up here. But yeah, Jared Stahl had 2 games played. So the correct answer was 998 games. He had 2 NHL games.
Come on.
With the Hurricanes back in the 2012-2013 season. But that's insanity to think that you have 3 brothers that have all played 1,000 games in the NHL. I don't know if we'll ever see that again, let alone in our lifetimes. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
The Hughes. Ooh, the Hughes, though. They have a good
Yeah.
chance. They do have a good shot.
Would be cool to see them all play in the same team for like a year.
I mean, they can do it. Top defense pair, Quinn and Luke. Oh, dude, imagine 3-on-3 overtime, and it's just the Hughes brothers out there.
That'd be a commentating, like, it'd be easy. Hughes, the Hughes. Goal by Hughes. Which one? I don't fucking know.
You wouldn't want to go by first names at all. That's what they did with the Sedins. It's just Daniel, Henrik. You know who we're talking about.
I was gonna wonder about because I remember we talked about this. I remember writing an article about this last year when I was working with Bar Down. When the Ottawa Senators had like 4 people on their active roster with the last name Brown. It's like
Josh,
yeah,
Connor,
yeah,
Logan. Ooh,
I can't remember the last one.
Who was the 4th Brown?
There was like 4 or 3. I can look up the article.
It might have been 3 because I cannot think of a 4th one. I'm trying like hell to think of the 4th one. If there is one. Connor Brown, Josh Brown, Logan Brown.
Oh yeah. Oh, this is nostalgia.
It has to be 3, right?
I can't believe I wrote this, and I put a fucking Highlander reference at the bottom where it's like, there can only be one. And no one got the joke. I'm like, thanks, guys. So it's 3. Connor, Logan, and Josh.
Hey, there we go. Shout out to roster editing for helping me know that. Because
There you go.
why else would I pay attention to the Ottawa Senators? Although, you know what's funny is I wasn't going to bring it up. Well, actually, no, we were going to bring it up in today's show, and screw it, now's the perfect time. Shout out to DJ Smith's attempted defense of Nikita Zaitsev and Josh Brown. You expect a coach to defend their players, but this was essentially his quote. Last year, people went after Eric Goodbranson, and now he's in Calgary playing 20 minutes a night on a very good team. So that was his defense of Zaitsev and Brown by comparing them to Eric Goodbranson. Goodbranson is 3rd pair in Calgary, by the way, but I love the fact that he's like, well, he plays minutes on a good team as an indicator as to why he's good, but analytics are a bad way to judge talent, everybody. I love that you could almost read this as he's calling out like his own coaching here.
Yeah.
Like Goodbranson last year was horrible under me as the head coach, and now he's much better in Calgary. Or are you saying your players are bad? Because you said Eric Goodbranson went to a good team in Calgary, so what's your team? But aren't you trying to defend your players? DJ Smith, keep him away from a microphone. That's my one request.
That's hilarious. Like he just calls out his own team. He's like, yeah, he's playing on a good team. Hey DJ, what about your team?
Like, even when you're a bad team, like, you don't want to, you always try to defend it as like, you know, we're a work in progress. We play real hard every night, though. Mm-hmm. Not, oh yeah, Eric left. Now he's on a good team. So if Zaitsev and Josh Brown went to a good team, they'd be good too. Good job, DJ. Good job.
Proud of you.
Our Leafs legend, DJ Smith.
Oh, man.
Our first real question of the night comes from Hawks. And Hawks, I gotta be honest, buddy, I'm gonna shut you down here. Which dark horse team in the NHL has the best chance to really make some noise come Stanley Cup playoff time? I think we have to wait until the deadline. Which, at the time of recording this show, the NHL trade deadline is under 6 days away.
Yay.
Yeah, under 6 days away. And I think we will likely have a show the day of. I mean, I'll certainly be live streaming on Twitch and hope to God, you know, some deals happen, and then we'll probably have like a mini episode talking about some of the stuff afterwards. But I think we got to wait until the deadline, right? Because we still don't know what some teams are going to do that are kind of on the bubble. It really doesn't make any sense to be like, okay, who's kind of a dark horse team compared to Colorado and Tampa. If it depends on, does a team like Dallas or Nashville make the playoffs? So we got to wait it out there, Hawks. I hate to tell you. From Hawks to Killer Socks. Bracket. The whole episode is you guys doing a bracket. Now, I know you responded to this on the Discord, I know, but I presume he means March Madness. And as you said, problem, I'm Canadian.
Yeah.
So I'm going to guess you don't give a shit about March Madness.
Not at all. Like, it doesn't really affect me. I know people over here are like, yeah, March Madness. Like, March Madness is like the biggest like exploitation of like athletes in general. And like, I mean, obviously now they have the ability to make money with sponsorships and stuff like that. But before that, it was just massively exploitive of all these athletes and people who deserve to get paid or some sort of compensation. You could say, oh, they're getting tuition and like that, whatever. I mean,
well, they have changed the rules slightly, like in the past year or so. But even then, it's still not where it should be based off of the amount of money being made by people not playing in the actual games.
Yeah. So my cousin was a football. He was running back over at a university in Ohio. God bless his soul. And it was like a D2 university. He had a full ride tuition. He couldn't step foot into like any sort of like thing that could be conceived as him getting a sponsorship because it could completely null and void his entire contract with the school. It's like you're basically like locking them down. I think the hottest take that I had for this was I think it's too hot for the podcast and it's memey. I think the take was like
is there such a thing as a take too hot for this podcast?
It was like it's like on the range of like being too much and like too like off the deep end. And I thought it was like a meme take, and I was just like, yeah, you know, sports, especially NCAA, is the perfect way to still enact some sort of slavery in the world. And everyone's like, whoa. I mean, I'm not wrong, but it's different in the way. I mean, the way they're not being compensated and treated properly. Is that a hot take?
I don't think so.
I don't think so? Okay.
We'll also turn the conversation back to basketball. Because I, as the whitest man on this podcast, not just because Sin's not here today, or Davos or Crash for that matter.
No, it's still me. I'm still the whitest guy in this podcast. Let's be real. Let's be real. I listen to Muse, okay?
Fair enough.
There you go. Tougies the blackest on this podcast. Okay. Let's go. Let's keep going through.
I like March Madness. I love the idea of the tournament. The problem is I just don't have anybody to root for, like as an actual school. So I always just, of course, root for the underdogs, which lasts as long as it lasts, and then they never, ever win. Just once. I don't know. Maybe that's what makes it special. One time an underdog wins, you can really celebrate it. But at the same time, I love the idea of the tournament. I was actually really close to, obviously, we had done a lot of NCAA college football revamped on stream over the past month or so. And I was actually looking into May because I have the old college basketball games. Although apparently different people are trying to do for college basketball 2K10 what people did for NCAA 14 in terms of modding. But they're still in the early stages of it. So I elected not to look into that. But just the idea of a 64-team tournament it's fucking awesome. Mm-hmm. It is. It's awesome.
Wait, what's that one school with the nun?
Oh, was it Loyola?
Yeah, they're pretty chill.
I do believe. And they're back in the tournament this year, too.
That nun is like the hype squad of everything. Yeah. What was it? Sister Jean or whatever?
Yep.
There you go. There's my team. You found it. You found it.
Dude, she is 100. Number one, she has her own Wikipedia page.
Wow.
Secondly, she is 102 years old.
What? What?
She was born August 21st, 1919.
Damn. That bitch went through both wars.
That is insanity.
Well, 3 now. So, whew.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, yeah, right? No kidding. There you go, everybody. For those playing podcast bingo at home, there's your first war reference.
Waiting on a war.
Oh, God. So,
Speaking of war, baseball. Yeah. Wins above replacement. There you go. They finally came together. The rich people and the not so rich finally decided to come together on an agreement because they realized, we don't have baseball in the docket as much as I think people probably want us to, but I'm glad that they got that shit together.
We are still kind of waiting to see how free agency is going to go, and obviously, like a lot of teams have made the trades, a good amount of trades. They've made the trades. I'm a sports fan. They've made the trades and playing the ball. Like the Yankees picked up Josh Donaldson, which is really weird, because just what a horrible uniform to wear. Still kind of waiting to see how the dust settles on that, But I'm definitely excited for baseball, and it certainly makes things more interesting when the show comes out on April 1st, which we're super close. To round out the question about March Madness, though, Endo is going to bandwagon Loyola, and I am going to bandwagon. I mean, I want to pick like a Memphis or someone like that who have always done well. Shout out to Vermont. Vermont's in the tournament. Who wouldn't want to root for Vermont? Let's bandwagon Vermont. Or Chattanooga, because apparently they have a decent chance. Go Chattanooga. Although, you know what? I really kind of want to look up what the actual team names are, because there are some weird ones.
Isn't there one like the Gamecocks or whatever?
That's South Carolina.
There's
a team, and god damn it, I can't remember which one it is. But they're the fucking Spiders or some shit. And I'm like, that's just a sweet ass name for a basketball team. Which is what the Cleveland Guardians should have been called. Imagine that. I'd be so much more hyped for baseball if it was the Cleveland Spiders.
Oh, yeah.
Dope as hell.
Or the Arachnids or something like that.
The Cleveland Spidermans.
It's not... That would have been perfect, because people would have been using it's not always about the money, Manfred, like that. It's not always about the money, Spider-Man.
God damn it.
It's about the Mets. Baby, go the Mets.
Rob Manfred is J. Jonah Jameson. Change my mind. Equally pieces of garbage. Our next question
lockouts of Spider-Man. I want lockouts in the Spider. I want lockouts next week Tuesday.
Give me pictures of the players crying.
I want sad pictures. I want sad pictures on the wall, on the ceiling, on the boards.
Whew. All right. How the hell did we get here?
This is what happens when we talk about baseball.
Yeah, this is what happens when we don't have someone to anchor us down.
Yeah.
Premium Bagel. Thoughts on the Coyotes' recent run of form and the likeliness that Chychrun gets traded for the, quote, King's ransom amount that has been reported. Now, the Coyotes, alongside the Montreal Canadiens, have actually been two of the hottest teams in the league. Shout out to Cole Caulfield's slap shot winner against the Flyers. Like, I watched a compilation on YouTube the other day. There is nothing better than a player just skating into the zone and just, and right into the back of the goal. There's nothing better. It's obviously like the best of all time is Steve Yzerman after stripping the puck away from Gretzky and blasting it from the blue line. There's nothing better than that. I'm sorry. You can take your Connor McDangles and do whatever the hell you want. Just give me someone slap shotting the puck in from distance, even on a breakaway. It's the best. In terms of the Coyotes, though, because they were the question, I kind of feel bad for them. Because winning right now isn't ideal. They are essentially in a 3-horse race for the number 1 lottery odds. Although that race is getting a little bit close. So the bottom of the league right now, you have the Montreal Canadiens on the worst point percentage in the league. They have 40 points through 59 games.
Nice.
The Coyotes have 42. And then there's the Kraken at 42 points as well, but they've played 2 more games than those other 2 teams. And then you have Philadelphia and Ottawa, who are only 5 points ahead of those 3 teams. So For Montreal and Arizona, you are winning at the worst time to the point where Seattle might actually be able to pull this off. Both the Yotes and the Habs have 7 wins in their last 10. The Kraken have 2. So, it's not the best time for the Yotes to go on this run. They do have all of the draft picks, and they're likely to get more. Again, they already have 3 firsts and 5 seconds. It's like NHL 22 franchise mode. It's nuts. Mm-hmm. They still have Phil Kessel they could try to trade. I don't know if anyone would take Louis Eriksson, Anton Strawman, if you could deal him for half salary. Like, they do have some pieces they could move to get a few more assets. I'd say Kessel is the biggest one. You could argue whether or not Kessel would want to change of scenery right now after, his child was just born. In terms of Chychrun, though, because I don't know if you'll disagree. Like, it's just kind of the idea. Like, yeah, the Yotes are winning when they shouldn't be. Same for Montreal. Like, it's a pretty stacked draft. Then again, actually, now that I think about it, do you want the number 1 pick this year? Would you have the utmost confidence in Shane Wright, knowing, now granted, different league, OHL, WHL, but Shane Wright has been looked at as not exactly dominating the OHL like he thought. Would you, or like we thought, or everyone really thought that he would you have the utmost confidence? I mean, he has 71 points in 49 games. So Elite Prospects has him projected at 64 games played with 92 points. I still would have some good confidence in taking him first overall. Like, the expectation level was set so damn high for him to be like, oh yeah, 64 games, 192 points. But would you have confidence, or do you feel like, this is the year where you don't necessarily need to get that number 1 overall pick?
It makes you think. I think one thing for sure is they put way too much pressure on these kids coming out. 100%. I think another thing as well is, I think even if he's that good out of OHL, I think you should give him another year just to go there, just to tear it up again. Realistically, no matter what happens, because I think maybe he's not, because we had what happened with Alexis Lafreniere. He went up from the Q over there, but the Q is like a different level of competition, I guess. Like, I think the tier system is like OHL, Q, and then like W. Like, the OHL will always be like the premier league, aside from obviously playing in Europe and playing.
You would say that, being in Ontario, your Ontario bias is showing.
My Ontario bias is showing. I'll fucking Ontario bias show you my ass. Shut the fuck up. Sorry, I'm kind of tired, so I'm not dealing with a lot of shit today. I don't think they can go wrong either way. If they grab it from the W or they grab it from the O, either one. Just don't rush. Don't rush prospects. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah.
Just take your time with them.
That's my takeaway too. Like, the Coyotes are going to be awful next year too.
Oh yeah.
If it, the Habs might. I mean, granted, both teams, really any of the 3, Arizona, Montreal, Seattle. I think all 3 though would feel the heat of needing to trot out their number 1 overall pick, just for the sake of getting people to the building. I mean, the Kraken certainly, like, here's our first ever number 1 pick, or Arizona, hey, we're playing in a college stadium, here's our guy.
He can't drink yet.
Yeah. Welcome to ASU, one of the state's most notorious party schools. Here's our guy who can't legally drink.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of Chychrun, though, I don't see him getting moved. He is currently out injured for a few weeks, which kind of sets the stage for, like, he was the top name out on the market, even though he still has term. Which I think now might position, of all people, Ben Sherratt as the top defender. He's being held out of tonight's game, so it's fairly obvious. Like, the negotiations are there. I saw the Blues name being thrown around quite a bit, which, of course, I mean, if you talk about a team that, he would fit in well with, it's going to be the St. Louis Blues. Just that idea of we want big physical defensemen. Now, granted, they have Torrey Krug and Justin Falk, but both of those guys do play more physical despite not being the biggest in the world. And then you have 6'3" Marco Scandella, 6'6" Colton Parayko, 6'4" Mikko Mikkola, 6'4" Robert Bortuzzo. Like, that's just what they do, especially with Berube as being the coach. Like, yes, give us big physical defensemen on the blue line. So he'd fit in well there. If it's not Sherratt as the top name, though, heading into the deadline, which kind of shows how rough this is, if it's not Sherratt being the top guy, Klingberg, I guess. Like, he has 30 points this year, 31, I think, to be exact. But is he still the defensive liability he looks to be? I mean, he's on a team that you would think has a defense-first style with Rick Bowness as their coach. Mark Giordano isn't what he used to be. Then you have Hampus Lindholm, Justin Braun, and of course PK's name is being thrown out there, even though the Devils would have to retain half their salary.
Yep.
I got to be honest, the deadline's a little bit more boring now that Chychrun's hurt. Because these aren't exactly blockbuster names, but in fairness, they are names that could really help, I would say. Like, these are the type of names. They're not the blockbuster names, but they are the type of guys that can help kind of put a team over the edge. Like, I don't think Ben Sherratt's an amazing defenseman. Why? Because the numbers, and people be like, but what about the eye test? The eye test doesn't paint the prettiest picture either. Let's be honest here. He's a guy that gives a lot of effort. It's tough to quantify effort, but it's not tough to quantify the other aspects of the game in which he hasn't been great. But if you get Ben Sherratt and you don't play him on your top pair, good things might be able to happen. And a team like St. Louis or Toronto for a first might be a great fit. I love how that rumor is just not going away about Ben Sherratt in Toronto. Like, this, how? We'll talk more about the Leafs a little bit later on.
Why would we give a first? Oh my God. It's the one thing. It's just like a father going for milk. It's like, it's in hand. Like, they just leave. Like, why do you want to give away your first hand pick? Like, every single time. Can we get a first rounder? Even if we don't even if we get our ass kicked in the playoffs, which is probably going to happen, let's be real. Can we just get... There are some pretty good defensemen coming up in the draft this year. You need to grow in defense, do it that way. You need to grow in goaltending, fucking trade, because God knows we can't develop any goaltenders. Although, apparently we can with Joe Wall and with Chilgren, but Chilgren's an import, so it doesn't really make a difference then.
So, Chychrun, traded. I'm saying no. I'm sure Endo agrees.
Yeah, he's not going anywhere.
That defensive market is a little bit rough, but that's it. The Bruins trade for a right-handed shot at the deadline. Best defenseman in the league, no matter who they get. Next question comes from RG Dust. Thoughts on the Colorado Avalanche's move so far, and what could it take for them to get Giroux, in your opinion? Now, to recap their moves. They re-signed backup goaltender Pavel Francouz for 2 years, $2 million. He was already making $2 million, so basically a straight-up 2-year extension. They traded defensive prospect Drew Helleson and a 2023 second-round pick to the Anaheim Ducks in exchange for Josh Manson on 50% retained salary. So first and foremost, the backup goalie move, good move.
Mm-hmm.
Good goalie. Helleson in a second for Josh Manson. It's a little bit expensive, but you're paying for them to retain salary. And Josh Manson for $2 million is still a pretty damn good deal, so I don't have an issue with that at all. By the way, the Ducks went on, I think today, if not yesterday, to sign Drew Helleson. And damn good move. Like, the Ducks have some pretty damn good depth on the blue line now. Like, obviously, Jamie Drysdale is there, but they have Zellweger, Lacombe, Henry Tharoon. Like, the Ducks are set up pretty damn well on the blue line after a move like this. The move today for the Avs is that they traded Tyson Jost to Minnesota straight up for Nico Sturm. Jost was making $2 million against the cap. Sturm is making league min at $750K. On top of that, now you notice here, they've cleared out some cap. Landeskog is also getting knee surgery. He should be ready for the playoffs. Now, this is 100% cap circumvention. Like, make no mistake. Like, they're like, yeah, it's a nagging injury, and he wanted to go get it cleared up. This is not the type of surgery a player gets in the NHL until the offseason. Let's be honest. Oh, that nagging injury. Guys take care of that in the offseason, and they play through it all the time. This is 100% them opening up space to be able to make a move, preferably for Claude Giroux. The problem, Elliot Friedman mentioned, that Giroux's preference is apparently with the Florida Panthers. Now, Giroux is fresh off of posting his 900th career point in his 999th career game with the Flyers, which is insane. Yeah. Also scored his 291st goal of all time, past Lindros for 8th all time on the Flyers career goal list. Colorado making moves, making smart moves. In terms of what it takes for them or Florida to get Giroux, I mean, it's kind of the same thing it always is, right? A first at prospects, maybe a roster player now. Colorado, though, Mr. Rendo Mills, they don't have their second round pick this year or next, nor do they have their first round pick this year. That was sent to the Coyotes in exchange for Darcy Kemper. Are the Avalanche the right fit for Claude Giroux? Because you are likely looking at giving up. You already don't have this year's first, and you're likely going to give up your first rounder next year to get that deal done. I say, though, it's worth it for Joe Sakic to risk it, because who gives a shit about first round picks if you're winning a Stanley Cup?
I don't know. Like, I'm looking at like Giroux's like historical, like how he plays. He's a very passive. I thought Giroux had more goals than he did before. Like, I thought he had more than 291. Like, I always thought it was like a goal scorer, not really like a playmaker.
Apparently not.
Yeah.
I thought the same thing, in fairness.
Yeah, like, I remember going to, I think my first ever Leaf game was that game he hit the fucking Datsuk on Jonas Gustafsson. I think it was either Toskler or Gustafsson. Either one of those terrible Leaf goalies. Yeah, and I was like right behind the glass too, like right behind the net. So I saw that happen, like basically real time, and like I felt it as a goalie. And yeah, I don't know if he's gonna fit well with that team. I mean, that team does have a lot of like scoring power, but I don't know if he would be able to slide in and they would be able to adjust having another playmaker on that team.
I mean, I'm looking at it now, and obviously, McKinnon first line center, Kadri second line center. So do you slide one of them down, or do you move McKinnon to the wing?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if it's Claude Giroux, you make room, and you make it work. But at the same time, I mean, again, the Avs do have some hurdles to clear. Again, cap space-wise, even if Landeskog's on IR, which, again, is just pure cap circumvention. I think, in talking about the return that the Flyers would want, though, both, because it looks like Minnesota's probably out of it. Like, if you're taking back Tyson Jost, I don't know, man. But Florida and Colorado both have the prospects to get it done. Neither actually have their first or second round pick this year. So no matter what, Philly would be looking at a first rounder next year. I don't know. I'm intrigued, but it really does seem to be between those two. And I think the Panthers would have a more difficult time getting the deal done unless somebody magically ends up on IR. Because right now they have quite a bit of money tied up. Unless you're going to tack on a Patrick Hornqvist to the deal, or a Brandon Montour, who they just re-signed. I don't know. I still, despite Giroux's preference apparently being Florida, I think they have a more difficult time getting that deal done. So for Colorado, again, they have prospects. I mean, even like an Oscar Olsson can help get the deal done. I mean, any team can get pretty much any deal done. Like, they're good to go. So I'm intrigued. But if I had to guess at this point, Claude Giroux does end up as a member of Colorado. And I think they win the Cup this year, too, if that happens. I'll say it. I'll say it. Thank you guys for sending in your questions. Again, the Discord, link in the description, wherever you're listening or watching to the show. We will now turn this over to the Endo Mills portion of this podcast. Endo, the Leafs played in the Heritage Classic.
Did they?
On the weekend.
Did they really?
They did.
No, they didn't. Never
and
happened.
they lost to the Buffalo Sabres.
Never happened. The only thing that was really cool about that, I think the greatest thing about the event wasn't even that the event happened or that the Leafs got their ass kicked. One of my buddies that I play hockey with, he's actually the goalie for my beer league team I play on Saturdays, is a graphic designer. I'm going to give him a shout out, Dave Murray. He was commissioned to do a lot of work for the Heritage Classic. Like, you see the whole like industrial kind of style with the players, like a very 2D style artwork. That was all him.
Really?
Yeah. He got commissioned by the guys who do all the logos and stuff for the NHL to do that stuff over there. He said, like, he was talking to me about it. He said it was an absolute hassle because it's like, for people who know graphic design and stuff like that, you need to get a vector image of that, but it has to be big enough so that we can blow that shit up any size and not lose any sort of quality whatsoever. And so he like had to use like 3 different computers to render out everything because everything was just so big. I guess because his computer wasn't really that good, but still. Yeah, shout out to him for getting that done. He tried to keep it a secret, but he has a very distinct art style. So like you could tell it was his work. He's like, I wonder who did this. I'm like, yeah, I really wonder who. It's clearly you, but you don't want to admit it. And yeah, he was there to watch the Leafs actually get completely pummeled and watch Austin Matthews have a temper tantrum on the ice.
Yeah, so about that.
Yeah, I was gonna segue right into that. That was
the incident everyone's talking about. Rasmus Dahlin kind of gets into it with Austin Matthews, shoves him on his ass towards the goal. Matthews gets up and cross-checks him right in the side of the head/neck. He is subsequently suspended for 2 games. Your thoughts on the incident and your thoughts on the suspension?
I'm surprised that the refs let that go on even in the beginning. Like when he just shoved him randomly in. The play's nowhere there. Anything shoved
to interrupt, that's my immediate thought too, is that the refs didn't interject before Matthews even got the chance to step up and cross-check him.
You know what the best part about it is? I think it's a ref right behind you, or a linesman, I'm not sure. Don't really care. But he's sitting right behind the net, looking at the entire play, going like, yeah. Oh, no. Like what? What's going on? Like, I think there was a little bit, like, I get Lilina of, like, let them play and all this mentality behind that as I pour some water. And it's just, I think it's just too much. It's not negating whatever happened to Austin Matthews. I think giving him 2 games, I think, in general, all the other calls where there was, like, slashing and, like, high sticking to the neck and stuff like that should have been at least a game or 2.
I think that's the problem people have with this. What Austin Matthews did, suspension worthy? Yes. Like, man, it doesn't matter if you lose your temper. And I avoided talking or adding the Vegas Golden Knights to our run sheet because we pretty much talked about them in last week's Friday episode, just the idea of how they're struggling. But there was an incident over the past few days where Max Pacioretty just punched Chris Letang right in the back of the fucking head.
Right.
Like, dude, that's not a hockey play. That's fucking assault. Especially for Chris Letang, who has a history of concussions. Max Pacioretty, somebody on Reddit found this. Max Pacioretty gave Chris Letang a concussion in 2011 off of a hit. And the Max Pacioretty himself, like, say what you want about this Zdeno Chara incident, Max Pacioretty's well aware of fucking head trauma. So it's just the idea that, you have incidents like that where players are punching each other in the back of the fucking head, let alone the idea of here is somebody cross-checking somebody in the head. Like, that's not a hockey play. It's so incredibly fucking dangerous with everything we've seen in sports regarding head trauma. So the idea, should Matthews have been suspended? Yes, but Leafs fans do justifiably get to say, well, what the fuck about this? Like, where was the Department of Player Safety for this incident? And you saw a lot of those threads on Twitter and Reddit, and of course the trolls were out in full force. Oh, salty Leafs fans. But it's the idea of, like, no, Leafs fans have a legitimate gripe. And the majority of rational ones that I have seen agree. Austin Matthews should be suspended. You crossed the line. But the problem is, as we've talked about all season long with the Department of Player Safety, there is no consistency whatsoever. And Leafs fans are justifiably pissed because there have been incidents very similar to this, if not identical, that have not resulted in the same standard of punishment, especially for someone like Matthews, who has no history under their guidelines.
Honestly, it's everyone thinks, oh, like Leaf media bias, but like, if this sets the bar, then I'm like, fine, sure. But if something after this happens and there's a similar situation and there's no penalty given out, and it's another fucking max allowable under the fucking CBA, just say it's 5,000. Just say it's 5,000, because at this point it's ridiculous. Like, come on.
I mean, I'm looking back at one of these threads, and I mean, dude, there was an incident in the bubble, May 23rd of last year, the Leafs Habs series, where Wayne Simmons got cross-checked right in the fucking head.
Yep.
And there was nothing.
I remember that.
Like, literally a two-hand cross right to the face by Joel Edmondson. And there was nothing. Leafs fans are justified. Dude, for the most part, any fan base is justified in being like, what about this? What about this? Mm-hmm. Because there is no consistency whatsoever. There is no logic, and we know this, and that is honestly why it's been so difficult as a fan this year. Like, I've noticed, like, obviously, like, I try to watch as many hockey games as I can, Bruins, especially being a Bruins fan, but at the same time, man, like, it's getting to be more and more difficult as the season's gone on. Like, at the start of this season, when Endo kind of joined the podcast at the perfect time to kind of have it get into the discussions, like, it was already happening, and it's one of those things where, like, flat out, like, it's been, God, since the end of August, end of September, maybe, like, flat out, the reason why Deej and I went our separate ways is because we were struggling on finding the middle ground with how to discuss some of the more serious topics in hockey and how to kind of handle the show, because you don't want to have it be all negative all the time. Neither of us did, for that matter. But at the same time, it's so difficult to kind of generate the content for a hockey podcast when so many of the conversations are the same. And Endo and I have had that conversation, Sin now as well, who's been a part of the show now for quite a while too. It's that idea of how do you handle something more serious, but at the same side of things, how do you handle a consistent issue? Officiating has been a consistent issue for years, and especially this season. Like, do we have it be like, okay, here's our weekly talk about how officiating in the Department of Player Safety sucks ass? Mm-hmm. Like, it gets to be so frustrating and tiresome, and for me, it makes it difficult to just want to watch hockey, because you get the sense of, like, okay, cool, what bullshit am I going to see in terms of officiating tonight in this particular game? Because it does feel like a nearly daily occurrence at this point. And we head into the playoffs, Endo, where, it's that idea of, like, look, penalties still get called in the playoffs, but there is that idea that I guess that credo, so to speak. Like, oh, the refs put away the whistles in the playoffs, or suspensions in the playoffs. Well, one playoff game is really worth 2 regular season games. Like, shit like that. Where it's just, I can't say I'm overly excited for the playoffs right now either, even though the Bruins are likely to be in, because what are the conversations likely to be? Oh, that was such a great play and a great game. Or is it going to be like, yeah, the refs really had an influence on that one? It's more likely to be the latter.
Yeah. Also, I think Jay Fresh was talking about it on Twitter on how the myth, the feeling of, oh, less penalties are called in the playoffs versus like actually regular season was like debunked completely, because like there's been a higher ratio of more calls in the playoffs. But it's like, oh, what type of variant of a call is it? Is it like an interference, or is it like a sticking major like interference or stuff like that? But yeah, I see what you mean. Also, the cat's out of the bag with everything from the past and the whole change of everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, geez, like, not to cut you off, but even at the start of the year, do you remember when they're like, yeah, we're cracking down on slashing calls, and that lasted for less than a month?
I could have used that on what was it, Thursday when we was at the game. I could have used that a few slashing calls being on both ends. Honestly, wasn't even just to go back to Thursday with the Leafs Yotes. There were calls on both ends that were just kind of ignored. Leafs took the only penalty that was given out that day, I think, was the too many. What was it? They tried to call. No, they challenged the goal, and it was like, yeah, it's a goal, it's fine, whatever. And they lost, or then they had to give the guy in the box. That's it. I think it was the only penalty called.
Yeah, well, geez, the Heritage Classic too. I forgot all about that reviewed goal where they're just like, yeah, there's no way this goal will count, and then they're just like, it counts because Mrazek knocked the net off.
Oh my god! Can I go on a little tangent about that too, or? Yeah. Not too much. Not too much.
Go for it.
So, as a goalie, playing it off the post and stuff like that is, we use the post. A lot of goalies use the post. A lot of goalies don't. I use the post personally to push off with my skates. Some guys don't do because they don't like the blade hitting the post or the feeling of it. I've got like diamond coated I got like expensive ass blades, so I can push off it and not worry about my blade going dull. So for him like basically pushing off and the net being going out of the way, like you expect as an NHL goaltender your post to be in there, and I guess the ice wasn't like solid for the net itself, because it shouldn't give way like that easily. I know the pegs that they use in there, like the piranha pegs, so they fucking stick in there. So it must have been just the net wasn't propped in properly, and that might have caused it just to go away. So to say that he like kicked it off on purpose is wrong, because he uses the post to play the puck.
Yeah, that was kind of my takeaway there too, but it's, I can understand some of the argument where it's like, okay, basically the fine balance between the post being locked in tight enough with the moorings to not, to allow a goalie to push off, but at the same time, how they've tried to make it safer if someone crashes into the goal so they don't snap a freaking femur like we've seen before. So I don't know. I get that fine balance too. I thought you were going to go further into a goaltending rant, which we'll get to in a second. But I want to mention with the Leafs, obviously now they're missing Austin Matthews for 2 games. He, along with Marner, they have both have 25 points in their last 16 games since the All-Star break. Worth noting, by the way, JT Miller has 25 in 13 games. Why the hell were the Canucks ever talking about trading him? He has another year left on his deal. What the fuck? For the Leafs, though, this was their 6th straight game allowing 4 or more goals. That is the first time that has happened since 1942. No, because it's the Leafs. That happened in 2006, I should say, between January 10th and 28th. 2006. They also had a stretch of 6 straight games with 4 or more goals allowed. The most concerning part is that 3 of those 6 games recently have been against teams in the bottom 5 in terms of point percentage in the league. Seattle, they allowed 4. Arizona, they allowed 5. And now they allow 5 against Buffalo in the Heritage Classic. Obviously, Jack Campbell is still hurt. Peter Mrazek is a dumpster fire, to the point where Erik Källgren is going to start tonight for the Leafs.
Yes!
I just... This will be the year they make it out of the first round, because it's completely illogical that they do.
Yeah.
Because their goaltending situation has not been this bad in God knows how long, I think is the best way to sum it up. When is the last time, Endo, you as a Leafs fan, had less confidence in the goaltending? Because before this, there was Freddie Anderson. Mm-hmm. But even then, you always had that feeling of like, man, Freddie, if he's on his game, he can do it. Before that, it was Reimer and Scrivens. If I was a Leafs fan, I'd certainly have more confidence in those two. And shit, James Reimer just got activated off of IR for the Sharks, so who knows? At the same time, like, you mentioned, didn't you? Yeah, you mentioned, like, Gustafsson and Toskala earlier in the show. Mm-hmm. Would you have had more confidence in them than Peter Mrazek? Because I think I would have.
I don't even know what's going on. The only thing that I'm really concerned about is that we have his contract on the books for 2 more years after this, at 3.8. Mm-hmm. And the Leafs are going to have to get rid of him.
He has to. Yeah, like he has to go now. He makes $3.8 million against the cap. He has a .348 goals against average with an .884 save percentage in 17 appearances. And look, I get it. Like, there's a reason why they risked it with Peter Mrazek. Prior to getting injured last year, he had a .923 in 12 games with the Canes, and you think, well, shit, maybe. But then, you know, all the inconsistency before that, like, they took a gamble. It did not work out. They need to be in on any goalie that they can possibly get right now. You can't sit there. I mean, Jack Campbell's still probably your guy, but let's be honest. If it's not Jack Campbell, you're looking at Joseph Woll or Erik Källgren, who have very, very little NHL experience, or you're looking, as it stands, at Michael Hutchinson or Carter Hutton. They need to do something. And I kind of mentioned this on Twitter after the game. I think Kyle Dubas is boned. I think he's boned. Because it's either you don't go for it at all and just kind of leave the team as it is, which is a scary proposition. Mm-hmm. I think Endo would agree at this stage. That's a scary idea of this team just as they are. Let's hope for the best. That's scary. You can add a couple of depth pieces, like minor pieces. But let's be honest, did they not kind of do that last year with like Riley Nash and guys like that? It didn't work. Mm-hmm. Or you can really go for it. And that's kind of what I think they have to do. Because if they fall short, I hate to say it, in the first round again, Endo, how does he keep his job? How? I think he almost has that pressure. You still have your first round pick and your second. They have their first and seconds still for the next 3 years. They haven't dealt any of them. I'm sorry, but is now not the time to use those picks, use those prospects, get some of these rougher contracts off the books, and try to, pay the premium like Colorado did to get Josh Manson. Like, if you're not sold, like Peter Mrazek, you can get a team to take $3.8 million of Peter Mrazek. You cannot tell me that the Arizona Coyotes won't be like, let's go, first round pick, let's do it. Of course they will. You can't tell me that, say you don't have faith in Justin Hall. 2 years, $2 million. He's got 1 year left after this. You could move on from Justin Hall and bring in a defender that makes $4 or $5 million. no problem. Is now not the time for them to make these moves? I mean, in goal, you talk about who's on the market, and I mean, Marc-Andre Fleury's probably the guy. Like, that's been the name, and it's because, like, you're not going to go after too many. Like, there really aren't that many goalies out there that are on an expiring deal. It's just not going to happen at this stage. So, I don't know. Like, how do you feel right now as a Leafs fan? Like, if they don't make any moves, if they make minor moves, if they go for it, like, what are you hoping for? Again, the deadline's less than 6 days away now.
I think they need to look at the prospect pool for the next 3 seasons and determine, like, if they were to even get out of the first round, either in one of these 3 seasons, can they afford to give up a first round pick? I think this year is a very defensive based, like, first round. So I think this would be the year that you keep that pick and maybe you go to second round pick. Even if you, like, ship Mrazek over to, that's the thing though, you're gonna give up Peter Mrazek, you're gonna take that contract and a first, so you're gonna have to give up next year's first. But if you're giving it to Arizona,
I think
they're probably gonna
I
want a
do
first.
think they could move Mrazek for less than a first.
Yeah.
To be fair, but I get your point.
But, like, other teams know what the situation they're in, so that's the thing too. Because they're not just gonna look at gift horse in the mouth and be like, yeah, whatever, just take this, whatever. They might even have to do something stupid like retain and take, like, a second round instead. Because who fucking knows anymore, man? Like, they could have to do that, and then they're still screwed with the cap situation. Because they still got, if they're gonna keep Jack Campbell, they need to pay him adequately because his contract is up, and taking that 3.8 off of the books would help out a lot considering what he gets paid right now. But then you have to look at other players who are also expiring on their contracts, but they don't care because they're not the big 4 or 5 players. They can just fill them all with rentals. I know, what's his name's going to take a league minimum anyway, so Spets is take a league minimum. You have, like, Nick Robertson and a bunch of other guys on, like, ELCs.
So looking at it, Makheyev's a UFA.
Yep.
Lyubushkin's probably going to be a rental.
He's already said he wanted out from before. So
yeah, it's true. That's true.
So
he's definitely gone.
Yeah, and Leaf fans are already hating him because of some plays recently, not being able to find his footing. When he's not really playing on a line that he's really comfortable with, that's what's going to happen. It's just, yeah.
I'm intrigued to see what happens because I think if you are looking ahead and the logic is let's hold off and not really go all out this year, is there that confidence then to basically say we still have some pieces to shuffle around? Is the confidence then there, 3 years and 10 months into Kyle Dubas's tenure? Is he going to be given year 4, 5, 6 to then be allowed to add those extra pieces? Because even if you draft a defenseman in the first round this year, what are the odds that they're a Moritz Seider? Incredibly low. Like, even Cale Makar spent a couple of seasons in the NCAA. I'm very intrigued to see what Kyle Dubas does and the confidence that Leafs management has in him to still be the guy, because the pressure is so fucking immense on that organization to win. You have a generational goal scorer, I said it, in Austin Matthews. Legitimately, that's the appropriate term for Austin Matthews right now. It just is. Not to mention, holy shit, he might be the best all-around player in the NHL because he plays great fucking defense, like Selke caliber defense. You have Mitch Marner playing probably the best hockey of his career as well. And to say we're still not there yet after you were the one that signed John Tavares, after you were the one to hand Morgan Riley an extension that's going to pay him $2.5 million more against the cap. Like, just when does that situation boil over? Because, again, heading into last year, it's got to be this year from Leafs fans. Heading into this year, it's got to be this year. It definitely, certainly has to be this year. And now here we are approaching the deadline. They're in a great spot, standings-wise. I mean, again, right now, as of recording, they are in third in the Atlantic. Oh, wait, what's that? They're not in a great spot because the Boston Bruins are suddenly only 2 points behind them? Like, it went from, like, okay, it's a certainty that they're going to be okay, and they're probably going to play Tampa in the first round, to now they could be a wild card team, which you could be honest, you could, say might even be a benefit to them. But, of course, middle of the season, the wheels fall off with something, and this year it was goaltending again. So, I don't know. Like, I feel like this is... We finally got that moment, Endo, this season where we get to talk about the Leafs without you just being like, oh, fuck. Because now it's like, okay, it's starting to feel real. Trade deadline's coming up.
Yeah.
The playoffs are going to start in less than 2 months. And fuck, like, you can kind of see the writing on the wall. But at the same time, it's the Leafs. And if they get into the playoffs, who the hell knows? Who the hell knows? Because every time they make the playoffs, this should happen. So the opposite happens. Mm-hmm. We should beat the Blue Jackets. You lost. We should beat the Habs. You lost. Sorry for bringing this up. We are going to get fucking killed because we can't find a goalie to stop the puck.
Sweep.
You'll win the cup.
Sweep. Wins all 4 rounds in a sweep. Kyle Dubas gets the Conn Smythe. Kyle Dubas masterclass. Subvert your expectations so low so that way you literally cannot do worse.
There you go. So I'm very intrigued to see what's going to happen with the Leafs, no doubt. As much as I'm kind of intrigued at what the Bruins might do, the Leafs are probably the team above all else. Like, obviously, we talked about it. I'm excited to see where Claude Giroux's going to go. Boston, please. That's not going to happen. I'm very intrigued to see what happens with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Best way to put it. And I'm sure Endo's nervous as shit, judging by your face. Or it's just like, God, can you not for once just actually have confidence and be allowed to be confident in your team? And the answer is no. Only 2 teams are confident, and that's probably Tampa because they've won back-to-back cups, and Colorado. But even then, I think Avs fans are still nervous because, hey, a couple of injuries away from falling off again. Wanted to mention for the Sabres, though, time and time again, they've proven throughout this season that they're a tough team to play against, and we've said that numerous times. They have 4 wins this month. March, over the past few years, has previously been a nightmare for them. Endo, between 2019 and 2021, in the month of March, they had 1 win. 1. In March, over the 3 years. Obviously, COVID happened and cut down on some of the games, but now they have 4 wins this month. Like, the Sabres... they get that big win. I went on that rant about Jack Eichel in the last episode and how I thought that was bullshit. But at the end of the day, the Sabres are in a decent spot here if they play their cards right, if they figure out how to hire a scouting department, remember that, they'll be okay. They have 3 firsts this year already. And you could talk about stripping away an RFA and Victor Olofsson. I don't know if anyone's taking Cody Eakin. Vinny Hinostroza might be... Like, Vinny Hinostroza is going to be a Bruin. Like, that's what I mean for you as a Leafs fan. Like, oh, that type of depth guy. Like, Vinny Hinostroza's played well recently, and that's always the type of guy the Bruins seem to go after at the deadline, except for last year where they got Taylor Hall. It's interesting to see kind of how this is going to play out. By the way, I was looking at the Sabres cap friendly. Shout out to LTIR Sabre Johnny Boychuk. Forgot all about that.
Oh my God.
Last year of his deal, he's on LTIR for the Sabres. What the fuck?
Wasn't he so random?
Bruin Islander 1 year for the Avs before he got traded.
I swear we had his LTIR for like a while.
I want to look this up now because honestly, you might have. Well, you guys had like Robida, obviously, with Robida Island. I'm trying to remember who else you guys had. And I don't quite remember. It wasn't Boychuk, but I know who you're thinking of. Where it's like, oh yeah, he was randomly on the Leafs IR. Yeah. So hey, the Sabres, they're not in a bad spot at all. Obviously, have some good prospects. Alex Tuch fits that team like a glove right now. For the Leafs, though, it's just that same amount of pressure. Now, I talked about the rant that I went on in regards to the Sabres. I have done my fair share of ranting regarding the Chicago hockey team. And yes, I will continue to call them the Chicago hockey team until we see some change with that organization, whether it be ownership or branding. And I'll also continue to look at the way that the likes of Jonathan Toews and Patrick Kane conducted themselves back in 2010, and certainly after the initial response to the news of everything that happened towards the end of last year. I'm still going to look at them for those initial responses and who they elected to defend and then backtracked on. That said, Patrick Kane is going to go down as the greatest American player in NHL history. He's going to be a Hall of Famer.
Yep.
I have a Patrick Kane jersey still that hasn't sold. Boy, I wonder why a Patrick Kane jersey hasn't sold. As a player, Patrick Kane's incredible. Like, legit. We talked about the idea, I think it was on the show, of like, why do we still have Facebook? I still have Facebook for two reasons. One, I like to interact with my old-ass family members who still use Facebook. Two, on a daily basis, I cringe because I look back at my Facebook memories. And I have had some memories pop up recently of being like, I was heavy on the Blackhawks bandwagon in 2009, 2010, before 2011, obviously. I had a soft spot for Chicago. I did. Again, Patrick Kane, despite the cab incident, when, Hawks fans today will be like, hey, he's moved beyond that, and they're probably not wrong. But I was a big fan of the team, of this player in particular. And yeah, like, I'm going to give him his due. Like, he moved into second all-time in team history, team scoring history, recorded point 1,154, passing Bobby Hull. Another big role model there for the Chicago hockey team. Stan Mikita is in first. Again, Kane on 1,154 points. Mikita on 1,467. So Kane over 300 points to go. Despite the fact that this shows how fucking good Stan Mikita was in his prime, and even in his later years. Patrick Kane has the same amount of points as Stan Mikita at the same age. Both men recorded point 1,154 at the age of 33. So, theoretically, Kane could stay on the team long enough to accomplish the all-time record for Chicago. I'm intrigued to see if he does. Honestly, we've had that conversation now for years, and even before the Kyle Beach stuff came up, about whether or not they would trade Toews and Kane. They are both heading into the final year of their deal. I could see Patrick Kane hanging around. Jonathan Toews has looked kind of washed this year, but Patrick Kane hasn't slowed down. I mentioned Matthews and Marner, as well as JT Miller, being up there in scoring since the All-Star break. Patrick Kane is fifth on that list in terms of most points since the All-Star break. So I'm intrigued to see what happens, but I think, needless to say, Kane, 68 points in 56 games. If he does stay with Chicago, he will go down as that franchise's all-time leading scorer. And as I mentioned, future Hockey Hall of Famer, and will likely have a more impressive stat line. He certainly has a more impressive trophy cabinet than Mike Modano. I give him his due that he has earned on the ice.
Yeah. I think he's probably going to stay. I think there are reasons why he would probably leave. He'd definitely be a trade prospect, but I don't see Patrick Kane leaving. I just don't. I don't know why.
I think I saw some Chicago fans mention that he's kind of indicated he'd be all right with staying through a rebuild. He's 33.
Yeah.
I could see him staying as well at the end of the day. So, again, fair play to him. He is a phenomenal, phenomenal hockey player. Not end of, but on the ice, end of. Wanted to mention 3 other things really quickly. The Nashville Predators. Now, the Preds have joined the Oilers as the only 2 teams to feature 2 players with 30 goals this season. I will repeat. The Predators and the Oilers are the only 2 teams with 2 30-goal scorers this season so far. Obviously, you have McDavid and Draisaitl. For Nashville, both Phillip Forsberg and Matt Duchene have 31 goals. Matt Duchene has 31 goals. And nobody's talking about it because his hot card's already at 99.
Yep. No one cares, basically. It's oh man, Hut rules the world.
Oh God. Dude, he has been like incredible. Like, not to mention, like, it's been shown this year that Nashville, it's not just Saros and Yossi as to why they're in that playoff contention spot that they currently occupy. Obviously, we have talked about UC Saros a lot. The guy still has a .923 save percentage through 49 games. He's a beast. If it wasn't for Igor Shesterkin, you'd hear his name mentioned a hell of a lot more in the Vezina conversation. Roman Josi just took the league lead in points for defenders. He has 66 points in 57 games because Roman Josi is one of the best defensemen in the NHL. He just plays for Nashville. And now Matt Duchene is essentially on pace for a career year. He has 59 points in 55 games with those 31 goals, which is insanity. Like, you're talking about a guy who was viewed as absolutely cooked. Like, last year, abbreviated season with Nashville, 13 points in 34 games. That's brutal. He had 6 goals in 34 games. The year before that, in 1920, 42 points in 66 games. Still very far off the pace from a point-per-game pace. 18-19 was the year that he split time between Ottawa and Columbus. Was under a point per game. Once he got to Columbus, was a little bit over it in Ottawa. So really, it was after that Columbus playoff run where the Blue Jackets really stacked up. He had 10 points in 10 playoff games, but then goes to Nashville and he's cooked. And no. No, he's not. And, you're looking at a guy here that's 31 years old. He's still got a lot of time left. Phillip Forsberg was that name heading into the trade deadline where everyone's like, oh man, Phillip Forsberg's going to get traded. And we're like, why? And now all those rumors have kind of died down with Nashville saying we're trying to keep him. As they should. Phillip Forsberg, again, 31 goals as well. He, on the season, has 54 points in 46 games, which is fantastic. And then there's the third member of that top line. Those are 2/3 of the top line. The other guy is Ryan Johansen, also viewed as previously cooked. He has 44 points in 56 games, but still, that's not too bad based off of where his reputation was. He still makes $8 million against the cap until 2025.
Woo.
Nashville, we got asked that question, Endo, at the start of the show. Who's that sneaky team? It could honestly be Nashville. You have a bona fide number 1 defenseman on pretty much any team in the league. You have a Vezina caliber goaltender. And you have a guy like Matt Duchene, proving he's not cooked. Phillip Forsberg, slam dunk 30-goal scorer. Nashville's not looking all that bad. And Endo agrees.
Yeah, no, I'm doom scrolling Twitter right now, and someone has a free Austin sign at the Toronto Maple Leafs game.
I mean, fuck this. As I mentioned on the show last week, there's still free Cain Velasquez signs out there, so of course it'd be a free Austin sign.
And there's an adorable one where it says, "Hey Mitch, what is your Fortnite username?" Oh, that's cute. Fucking hate Fortnite. Anyways, back to you.
With Nashville, though, I want to mention this because we will continue to talk about this for years and years and years. With hindsight being what it is, and you don't know how he would have played on a different team, But Seattle could have had Matt Duchene. They could have had Vladimir Tarasenko. They could have had Max Domi. He has 31 points on the year. That would have been 4th best on the Kraken. Instead, they chose Gavin Bayreuther, who went right back to Columbus. Seattle could have gone on a Vegas-like run. They absolutely could have. Now that we sit here and look at who they passed up on. All the talks of, some of those other trades weren't really available. They still, with the players that were available, some cap hits be damned, they could have made things happen. Not to mention, if you have the Duchene and Tarasenko cap hits, that doesn't lead you to signing Grubauer to what looks like now a fairly brutal contract. So you would have kept Vanacek and Driedger, and the goaltending would have been as bad as it is, but likely better, potentially, because you would have had more goal-scoring support.
Yeah.
Again, for Nashville, things are looking good. But holy shit, again, we talked about them earlier, Seattle being a bottom 3 team in the league. Ron Francis better hope that he delivers at the draft. Like, they might have some pieces in play with Giordano, maybe Calle Yarncroke. I think they fucked up. And that's not exactly a hot take anymore to think that they fucking blew it. Like, even at the moment we thought they probably blew it, they blew it. I genuinely think. Now, again, I thought that roster would have been better. I looked at that defense on paper. It's probably not going to be that bad. It's been pretty bad. Dave Hackstall. That was also before we realized that, Dave Hackstall is what we thought he was. That was also before, by the way, on the season, Grubauer has an 888 in 44 games. Driedger has an 886. So basically you have 2 Peter Mrazeks for Seattle. Boy, I wonder why they're struggling.
Oh, boy.
They could have been really damn good. They could have been. And no. No, they're not.
Rebuild.
They're just not.
Rebuild what you're building. I don't know, man. Like,
it's just building. They just got to build at this point.
Creating.
Yeah, there you go. Final 2 things to talk about really quickly. First and foremost, for the Minnesota Wild, they retired Mikko Koivu's number. The second number retired in team history. Endo, do you know the first?
I know this. It's one of the Stahl brothers.
It is not.
Huh? Wait, hold on. What was the question?
For the Minnesota Wild, for Minnesota, they've retired one other number aside from Mikko Koivu's number 9.
Oh, no,
What
no,
is it?
not that. Sorry, I thought you were talking about the, I was reading something else above the next question you're going to ask me about the hat trick thing.
Ah, gotcha.
Yeah, that's a Stahl brother, I know that. I have no clue.
It's the number 1. You know who wore the number 1?
The fans.
The fans! That was the only number retired by the Wild. The number 1 for the best fans. I think it's hilarious. A lot of people think it's cringy and hate it. I think it's great. That said, fuck, man. Like, start showing respect. Granted, you might not say they totally deserved a number retirement, but Jesus, like, show me Manny Fernandez, Wes Walls, Philip Kuba, Marian Gaborik, for fuck's sake.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Jesus, but
Leaf legend.
Koivu played for the team between 2005 and 2020 before finishing his career with Columbus, which will be a trivia answer in 10 years. He ranks first in games played, assists, and points for the Wild. And in 10 out of 15 years that he played for the Wild, he received Selke votes and probably would have won the award at least once had it not been for the likes of Patrice Bergeron and Pavel Datsyuk. So congrats to Mikko Koivu and congrats to the Wild for finally properly retiring a number. And Endo, to end the show, you kind of mentioned this already, or you know, the cat's out of the bag and onto the roof. Cole Sillinger scored his first career hat trick for the Blue Jackets over the weekend, 18 years and 301 days old, which puts him, I believe, in the 11th spot for youngest hat trick ever. Actually, identical age to Patrick Laine. And not his first hat trick, because he has quite a few, but a Patrick Laine hat trick nonetheless. You were right in that the youngest player of all time to record a hat trick is a Stahl brother. It is Jordan Stahl, who did it against
Toronto Maple Leafs, and it was the Pens.
Yes, he did.
Because he played on the Pens.
Yep. At 18 years and 153 days old, Jordan Stahl recorded the hat trick for the youngest was the youngest player to record a hat trick in NHL history. Do you know who was second?
Sidney Crosby.
It's Patrick Laine.
Okay.
October 19th, 2016 as a Jet. Do you know who he scored it against?
Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah! Let's see, another one. 18 years and 225 days old. Don Gallagher in 1943. Boston against
Toronto Maple Leafs.
Oh, December 23rd, 1983. Steve Yzerman at 18 years, 228 days old. For the Detroit Red Wings. Who did he score that hat trick against? March 13th, 1982. Dale Hawerchuk, God rest his soul, for the Winnipeg Jets at 18 years and 343 days old, scored a hat trick against...
This is why my father left me.
And the last time they appear on the list here in like the top 20 to top 25, Pat LaFontaine for the New York Islanders at 19 years and 10 days old, March 3rd of 1984 for the New York Islanders, scored a hat trick in a 5-point game against the Toronto Maple Leafs. Oh, that was fun. That was a fun way to end the show, don't you think?
Yeah.
He forgets. Yeah, there you go.
Funny stuff.
And does very big on the audio portion of the show. If you're not watching or the video portion of the show, if you're not watching the video portion of the show, make sure to do so because you're missing a lot of substance there. But again, you can find us. Links are in the description, of course, if you're on the audio side of things. You can watch us on the YouTube side of things. Just search Tougies Take Podcast. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, and we appreciate you guys for doing that. Of course, as well, thank you for listening to us, whether it be on Spotify, Patreon, Patreon on occasion. Still working on getting control of my Patreon back after that hacking incident, by the way, so that's great. But yeah. Spotify, Google, Apple, Reason, and everywhere else you guys listen. It's greatly appreciated. Endo Mills, what are you up to? What do you have to promote as we head to the end of this show?
I made merch. Just full stop. No, I redesigned some stuff over the weekend and I got really, really bored. So I'm like, hey, I'm going to make new merch and completely overhaul my stream overnight. Because I was just like, fuck it. This branding looks kind of cool. So if you go to endomills.ca, there are some brand new designs there. There is the Anti-Hockey Hockey Club, which is to play on Anti-Social Social Club. It's basically a design that I like. It's really cool. The whole reason why it's Anti-Hockey Hockey Club is because I've had a really, really big love-hate relationship with the hockey as of the past 2-3 years and everything that's been going on. So I support hockey, but at the same time, I don't support hockey. So I think it's a perfect shirt. They have the other one. It's Carve Your Own, which is a design that I did as well. Just basically trying to create your own path and create your own identity. And then you have the Endo Mills Cross shirts as well. Every design on there also has a sticker you can pick up for about $5 US, I think. I'm not sure. Probably. If not, yeah. That's what I've got going on. I'm going to probably stream, not tonight, maybe tonight. I don't know. I'm going to stream either tonight or tomorrow. Doing also the casting with Sports Gamer. We're doing, I believe it is the ECL Core or Light. I cannot remember specifically which one it is, but it's Core. It's great. Great game so far. Right now, one team's got a 3-0 lead going into tomorrow's game 4. It's going to be a sweep or a reverse sweep. It's going to be fucking great. I love it.
There you go. And again, of course, that is sportsgamer.gg. You can hear Endo Mills on the call with good friend of the show, Mr. B Major.
Oh, he's good.
He is.
He's so good. He's like, oh man, I'm feeling off. I'm like, what are you
He's
talking
younger
about?
than you too, which is ridiculous. Like,
How old is he?
he's like 20 or 21.
Okay, yeah, he's younger than me. He's not that much, but he's younger.
Still though, like
Yeah.
it's ridiculous. Like,
Professionalism.
like I'm sorry, but that's one of the things, right? Like I've been doing this long enough. You can find me everywhere at Tougie24, by the way. Watch me stream WWE 2K22 because again, somebody bought that for me randomly, and it's actually okay. Fuck that company though for sports washing with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
Saudi blood money. Yeah.
I've been doing this, yeah, right. I've been doing this. Also, we're starting their career mode. It's called My Rise, and we've made a character last night officially, Buffet Dudley, the next Dudley brother. So make sure to watch his rise. Point being, though, to end the show, as he watches the bread dough rise. Like I've been doing this for long enough now, right? Like I started on YouTube when I was 21. Yeah, I started on YouTube when I was 21.
Yeah.
So, like, literally, I'm already, and now at 28, like, I'm already, old enough to have gone from people who were 28 when I started going like, hey, yeah, man, you got something. Keep up with this shit. To now I get to see people who are 20, 21, 22, 23, in B Major's age bracket. And I get to just be like, shit, man, these guys are good. Like, these guys are going somewhere, and hopefully, like, it's kind of the same thing, right? Like I've talked about it as well, like knowing that someone like Gravite, now of Sportsnet fame, like he used to watch my channel when he was like 12, for fuck's sake, and now like a lot of people are just like, I've had some trolls on occasion just being like, oh, he made it further than you. That's fucking cool that he made it further than me. He fucking deserves it. The kid's smart as hell and has worked his ass off, and it's the same thing, like I'm excited to see where someone like Endo Mills goes, because I see the fucking work you put in. I'm excited to see where someone like a Mr. B Major happens to go, because this kid's 20 years old and a fucking, just a freak of a broadcaster in terms of what he's able to do and put the prep work in that he does. And I will say that is the key, by the way, for anybody. I don't care if you want to be a normal sports broadcaster, an esports broadcaster like I am, have a podcast like I do. It's that idea of like, man, it's all like, it's about the prep work. Like the prep work is the job. Like the more informed you are, the more homework that you do, the better you're going to come off. Even if you feel like you don't have the voice or the cadence, you can work on that. It's the work ethic that needs to be there to get you pretty much anywhere. So I'm going to stop hyping up my friends. And thank you guys again for listening to the Tougies Take Podcast. Again, check out Manscaped, code Tougie, 20% off your order, free worldwide shipping. We will see you guys this Friday, that much closer to the deadline. And of course, again, I'll have a live stream on deadline day, most likely on Twitch. Keep an eye out on the Twitter for more information there. Endo, thank you for joining me as always, buddy. And we'll see you guys later on in the week. Go Leafs.
No Leafs, no.